What isn't priced in, I think, is sort of the follow through that we might see from President Trump. He's promised to commute sentences on day one for Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht. So if we see that happen and we see that follow through, maybe that could again cause another sort of push.
We all want to believe in something. In Chinese, belief also means trust. We want to trust our systems and each other so we can build a future beyond what we know. Join us at Consensus Hong Kong, where belief becomes real.
Happy New Year, everyone. It is January 2nd, and this is Markets Daily, hosted by me, Jen Sanasi. On this show, we navigate the currents shaping the crypto markets, providing insights against the broader financial landscape. So whether you are actively trading or simply fascinated by the volatility of the crypto markets, this show is your compass to understanding what's happened, where we are, and where we're going. Joining today's show is Kaiko research analyst Adam Morgan McCarthy. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again, Jen, and Happy New Year.
Of course, Happy New Year to you. Happy 2025. I got to just ask you, how were your holidays?
Yeah, they're good. I was back in Ireland visiting, so if you couldn't tell from the accent, that's where I'm from. But yeah, had a nice 2 weeks there, and now back in the office in Paris and ready to get back into it.
Amazing. Back at it. Well, it looks like the markets are ready to get back into it too. We were talking before the show, both Bitcoin and ETH are up about 3%. ETH is up over 3%, Bitcoin up over 2% at time of recording. Talk to me about what you expect to see as we get deeper into 2025. The holidays, while we had that rally just before we all went on break, it kind of fell flat, a little bit disappointing when you looked at the markets, but it looks like we're picking back up.
Yeah, I think we wrote about one of the last things we did before we kind of checked out for the holidays was talking about the possibility of a Santa rally, and I think mid-December people were positioning for 120k Bitcoin by the 27th, and yeah, we tempered expectations there a bit. We thought there was better less than 10% chance of that happening, and it kind of played out that way. That things kind of pulled back a little bit, market took a breather, and I don't think that's surprising. I mean, this time last year when we were coming up to that Bitcoin ETF approval date, we saw a massive sell-off in the market when there were some kind of mixed reports about the potential of the ETF, and that has similarly followed a massive run-up into the end of December. So I think it's a time of year where there tends to be some sort of kind of consolidation in the market, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more of that throughout January, especially with the sort of December ended. I think from the 1st to the 30th, the Bitcoin ended up kind of down overall after that massive push up over 100k on the 5th, and then again up around 108k a week or so later. So I wouldn't be too shocked if that consolidation or kind of things remain range bound for the next few weeks as we approach sort of the end of the month. But there's some catalysts coming up, I think, then again, regulatory wise, and just in general.
Talk to me a little bit more about what you expect to see in January. Of course, you mentioned catalysts. We have the inauguration coming up here in the United States on January 20th. I've seen a mixed bag of what analysts are expecting to happen this month. Tell me a little bit more about what you expect to see Bitcoin do in January.
I think a lot of it's probably priced in. I think with the announcement of Paul Aikens last month, that kind of coincided with Bitcoin pushing up over 100k. But what isn't priced in, I think, is sort of the follow through that we might see from President Trump. He's promised to commute sentences on day one for Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht. So if we see that happen and we see that follow through, maybe that could again cause another sort of push. I think there's certain things that he might do in the first week after inauguration that we could say reinforces the narrative a bit, and that might not be priced in right now. Maybe it is, and maybe he doesn't do those things and it goes the other way, but that'll be certainly something I'll be watching, sort of that follow through, the commitment that he made to the industry back in August when he appeared at the Bitcoin conference. Things like that. I don't know if we're going to see anything on crypto in the first week of the new commission's sitting, but it will be interesting if we do get anything there, and those are things I'll be watching kind of regulatory wise, like the repeal of SAB 121, the accounting standard for custodians looking to custody Bitcoin and ETH and other crypto assets in the US. That would be very big as well. I think if that comes early this month, or that'll probably be something that comes maybe February, March or later on, but once that does happen, it kind of increases competition. I think BNY Mellon might be one of the only major custodians in the US that's able to get involved with crypto at the moment. So If that is repealed, then you might see more firms that are comfortable to do it. I know NASDAQ had their own ETF, their own custody project kind of put on hold 2 years ago or so. So we might see things like that come back in. And we know that when those big names and when firms like that start getting involved in the market, it kind of sheds more light and it brings more attention to this space, which is always a good thing.
Of course, now I want to talk a little bit more about the trends that you expect to see in 2025, but I want to come back to what we were just talking about. You mentioned that $120,000 price target in December, as folks were expecting a Santa rally. When do you think Bitcoin hits 120K, since we didn't get it in December?
I don't know. I'm not one for the predictions. I don't have a magic 8 ball, but I think, if we're looking at sort of how things played out last year, I would say, where liquidity is right now. Last year we saw that kind of what we like to call the Alameda gap, the kind of gap left in the liquidity from the collapse of FTX and its sister company Alameda Research. That's closed out now fully in 2024, and that means there's a good solid strong base in the market. And I think when you see prices going up and volumes going up, that means there's a broad base to this move and it's kind of supported. If prices were going up and volumes were staying down, I'd be worried, but we've seen those volumes build a bit. If we are to get close to 120K price, I think volumes need to pick up a little bit more and on a consistent basis. So if we're to mirror kind of things that happened last year, obviously history doesn't repeat, but it sort of rhymes. We could see volumes grow and then maybe that price come in later on, H1, H2 this year. I'm not going to put a date on it, but I think if volumes pick up and momentum builds the way it has been, certainly we could. It's not out of the realms of possibility. I think another thing that plays into that is these the more products that we have on these assets. So I'd like to see a sort of dual asset ETF for Bitcoin and ETH. Be interesting. More things there. Obviously, the big play in 2024 was the Bitcoin ETF and the basis trade at the CME. So if we can kind of broaden that a bit more and see now that we have options on IBIT ETFs and we have order trades there. All of those things together can kind of, increase the overall liquidity and the overall volume and can only benefit the price then in the long run.
Folks who are waking up this morning are thinking about, what are the narratives I should be watching for 2025? What kinds of projects should I be watching? We mentioned a few big changes coming for the industry. Of course, the new administration taking over here in the United States, more crypto friendly. We're going to have an SEC change. What narratives, what projects do you think are going to take off on the back of catalysts like these?
I think the one big thing I've touched on already is the custody. I think we're going to see more custodians and more competition. Coinbase had 100% of the custody market this time last year. I think now it's just below 80% maybe with Fidelity, BitGo, Anchorage, others coming in there. And obviously, that competition is healthy. I think Gemini works with Van Eck on theirs as well. So there's a good, healthy ecosystem developing there. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, Coinbase share maybe fall a little bit lower again this year. Obviously, they're growing their overall, whole assets under custody, but their share of the whole market has come down a bit as that competition grows, which is healthy, which is good. I think that's something that's going to continue to play out this year, especially as we get some clear regulation around that. Some clear regulation around stablecoins as well would be great, as we've already seen in Europe with MiCA. The regulation has benefited euro-denominated stablecoins, and if we can get some sort of similar regulation in the US, it might just grow that leaf for USD stablecoins even further. I don't think MiCA can do enough to peg back that massive lead that USD stablecoins have, as it mirrors FX markets and other markets. So it's only natural, but I think it has helped to sort of solidify a base for euro-denominated stablecoins, which is healthy. So similar regulation on stablecoins in the US would be great, which, as we've seen, stablecoins are sort of trading vehicles, and when there's higher velocity of movement through stablecoins, prices tend to be going up. When the whole market cap of stablecoins is going up, price tend to be going up. So stablecoin regulation would be a great thing, as well as clarity on custody and regulation around, DeFi, decentralized exchanges, and whether they're broke. I know there were some issues whether they're brokers and how it works. And if we just need clarity, really, I think what we have, and we discussed this on a webinar we had in December, is that there's optimism in the US now, which is a great thing. Before there wasn't optimism, there was always this hurdle of the regulatory kind of barrier. But with that sort of out of the way now, maybe we can get back to doing interesting things and innovations and moving beyond it, because I think it's not just regulation that's going to help the industry and going to grow, and going to increase asset prices in the end of the day. It's going to be more interesting innovation and bolder kind of developments. So we can't just rely on, having mixed basket ETFs or having options on these funds. It has to be actual exciting things that get people interested in using crypto assets and getting involved in the space that will also help. So I'd like to see some more stuff there. I really like what Athena is doing with its USDT stablecoin that's investing in Build, give it a little bit more security as well. Solidity in its platform is great. So some more stuff like that that's interesting. I mean, we saw the Hyperliquid airdrop in November, which was super beneficial for holders and users. If we can get more things like that kind of keep people coming back, then it'll be a good year.
All right, and the last thing I want to touch on are altcoins and meme coins. Meme coins really drove the narrative at the end of last year. I know various different firms are predicting that they will continue to drive that narrative in 2025, especially on the back of AI implementations and AI agents being able to spin up these coins and trade. Talk to me about how you're looking at meme coins and how you're looking at altcoins and how they might play into the narrative as we move forward.
Yeah, I think meme coins are hard to ignore. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. They've been around a long time. What was interesting last year was that more of the kind of moves came from Solana blockchain. So we had the kind of initial bonk rally in December 2023 that played into our first half of 2024 as well. In March, I think we had a massive rally. You're getting all these tokens that were being spun up pretty quickly. That led to the launch of Pump.Fun, which was a massive hit. I think it did nearly 400 million in revenue last year after only being live for about 7 or 8 months of the year. So those will continue to be a thing. But I think while AI agents are interesting, and while that kind of intersection between AI and crypto is like very tempting to get kind of drawn into and go down the rabbit hole of that whole thing, I think in the end of the day, these meme coins that do stick around have a narrative and they have a community. I mean, the Peanut the Squirrel meme coin, which I got drawn to at the end of October before the election, that had a narrative. I guess it was political, and it was also this iconic squirrel that had a massive following on social media already. Other memes that spin up quickly and kind of tend to run out of flames quite fast as well. I think it's all well and good how quickly you can create these things, but there needs to be a solid narrative and a kind of community there, almost cult-like followings. So without that, it doesn't really stick in my mind anyway. But beyond meme coins and onto altcoins, I think there's been a lot of talk since the last 2 years maybe. When's the altcoin rally going to be? Bitcoin, obviously, June 23, the BlackRock filing started picking up momentum. XRP had a spike that summer after its SEC case. We saw a similar spike at the end of this year after the election. So I think that might be another regulatory-based thing where there's going to be clarity around some of these coins that were kind of dubbed crypto asset securities by the previous administration. That might be priced in now, when Paul Akins takes over and when the new commission is in, we might get more clarity and there might be some other moves higher, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to follow the trajectory of previous cycles where money starts flowing further out the risk curve into these smaller assets with less liquidity. I think we're looking at a kind of different type of market here where there's a lot of institutional interest and demand, and they're going to drive the narrative a little bit more. And I don't know how comfortable a lot of these institutions are getting involved in, these altcoins that are just a little bit too far out there with a little less trading volume, less liquidity. It's hard to get out of those positions in size, so they might not get into them. If we get ETFs for Litecoin, XRP, HBAR, there's a mixed basket ETF from Grayscale looking to convert. I think it's got AVAX and Sol in it. Maybe those things could see a boost, but there also could be a negative impact if they don't get the trading volumes. So I'm not as bullish on that things necessarily have to flow into altcoins like they have in previous cycles. I think meme coins definitely going to stick around once there's a solid narrative.
All right, Adam, and before we wrap up, I want to hear your hottest take. What should people who are watching the crypto markets be aware of? What should they be watching? What's the one thing they should be focusing on as we head deeper into 2025?
The one thing for me is maybe focusing a little bit more on use cases and a little less on regulatory issues. We had a good focal point for all of our disappointment over the last few years in Gary Gensler, and he's going to be leaving at the end of the month. And I kind of be wary of how we how we treat that now. Because a lot of the time in crypto, we kind of build a lot of people up into being heroes or being villains so that we can focus our energy in a sort of zero-sum way. I think we need to move beyond that in 2025 and look a little bit more at what we can do to entice people to use the products and use the use tokens and get involved in a healthy way.
It's been such a pleasure having this conversation with you. Thanks for joining the show this morning, and Happy New Year to you again.
Happy New Year, and thanks for having me.
And thank you to everyone who watched Markets Daily today, who listened to Markets Daily. If you enjoy listening to this, you can subscribe to the CoinDesk Podcast Network that is available on all podcast platforms. If you prefer to watch, we are on YouTube. Hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, leave us feedback. We read it all. We apply your feedback if it is constructive. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for listening, and we will see you tomorrow.